Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. I'm Shawn.
I'm Ray.
I am the abominable Anthony.
And we are going to review Magic Mike 10, The Fast and the Magic today.
Oh.
So this stars Vin Diesel as Magic Mike, Tom Selleck as Magic Bill, his mentor, and Jonathan Hillerman as the macadamia-crazed psychopath who's stalking them both in the wilds of Hawaii.
Okay, I want to see this now.
What's up, guys?
What's up? Oh my goodness. Been a while.
I've been sick for so long, and I'm no longer sick, so I'm ready to fucking go, man. I'm just, yeah. It's been a while since we got the band back together. Hopefully Tori will join us shortly. But yeah, glad to see you guys, and glad to be here talking about our beloved genre, romantic comedies. So so we're going to start with Anthony and I just both saw this the other day. Missy saw this as well, but she wasn't able to attend. Rob Savage, whose name actually, now that I think about it, sounds like he'd be a wrestler. Not in a bad way, just saying.
Yeah.
The man who directed 2020's Host, the first big, I know what I'm going to do during lockdown. I'm going to make a scary movie on Zoom. I'm a pretty big fan of that movie. Show it to people whenever I can. So he made another movie in the interim called Dash Cam. Haven't seen that. Now he is making movies for Warner Brothers and adapting Stephen King short stories. And so, Anthony, what did you think about Rob Savage's The Boogeyman?
So when we talk wizards and Fred Savage, I think very fondly of my childhood and how my affinity towards Super Mario 3 really blossomed with that film. I don't recall anybody else's work in the film, with the exception of the young lad who wielded the power glove and led me on a lifelong obsession with this gauntlet of power that I've never been able to attain. And today, I currently have a bid on eBay for it, and I'm really hoping to win later on. So, guys, help me out with some crossed fingers with that. No. Wrong Savage. Rob Savage, the host, Dashcam, Boogeyman, did a fantastic job. I went and checked this out Thursday evening. I'm sure you did as well, right? I think you obviously you had an earlier showing than I did. Hits all the right beats. We did have a brief conversation about this, and I did say that the one thing I thought was like lackluster was the score. However, everybody's acting was pretty goddamn good. Sophie Thatcher, who plays Sadie, known for Yellow Jackets, obviously, and the young lady Vivian Lyra Blair Sawyer. She did a good job. Again, hits all the beats as you play scared little girl, and she did it. Spot on. I'm gonna butcher his last name because I always do. David
I think it's Desmalchian.
Desmalchian.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lester Billings. Very brief, appearance in the film. Leaves a nice haunting effect. He leaves a very haunting element to the film. Very, very scared. Just his performance is pretty damn good for, albeit brief. Marin Ireland, who plays Rita, who apparently was in The Dark and the Wicked and The Empty Man. I had no idea.
I knew I recognized her name when I looked her up.
Yeah, I do. I recognized her from The Dark and the Wicked, but I completely forgot about her performance in The Empty Man and anything else she's done, to be honest. I don't know why the father's name escapes me at the moment.
Oh, Chris Messina, the actor?
Yeah. You were telling me apparently he was a comedian?
Yeah, I recognize the name, but Kirsten said she believes he's a comedian and that she knew him from some when you look him up, it's Argo, Away We Go, Ruby Sparks.
Okay.
a bunch of stuff I don't know anything about. So I don't know what she was specifically speaking to. But I thought I would not have known he was a comedian. I thought he did a
Yeah.
great job. I mean, everybody did a great job, I thought, acting wise.
Everyone did a fantastic job. Rob Savage did a really good job of conveying dread and keeping the element of suspense high. And something also mentioned was that considering it's a PG-13 film and you're not going to be reliant on gore or anything like that, you're gonna have to, fall back towards jump scares and things like that. He does a fantastic job of how to misdirect you to keep you guessing from where it's coming from next.
Yeah.
His lighting is fantastic, especially considering like the majority of the film obviously is close to or near the dark because this is where this creature exists. So the way he lights sets is fantastic. I will say that much, and really it really helps in providing an ominous tone from setting to setting. No, this guy has done a fantastic job as far as hitting the beats for a popcorn horror film. This is PG-13, so obviously it's going to be made more accessible to a lot of people or younger folks that are going to gravitate towards what I would deem source material that's out there right now that kind of helps push this stuff along. There's a bit of Stranger Things, and in my opinion, there's a little bit of Something's Killing the Children. There's little tastes from a lot of different places that are considered popular at the moment. I think it meshes well. It definitely melds very, very splendidly, in my opinion. It is a good movie. I honestly at first sighting of this trailer, I would have never went to go watch this. I'm glad I did give it a chance though, because it was done very well. It was execution on it was great. Everybody did a good job. Again, it's a bit beat for beat. However, I can't knock it when it's done properly, and it was. And I commend what Savage was able to pull off with this film, and everybody did a fantastic job in it. What about yourself?
So one thing I really liked is it is definitely scary. So there are jump scares. However, it reminded me of I've only ever seen the first Insidious. And the thing about the first Insidious, I would not have seen that in the theater, but I remember Tori, back when that came out, was like, I saw it, go see it. It's scary. And there are moments, the baby monitor, the guy that walks through the window, there are moments where they take a jump scare and they're able to sustain the fear that it creates instead of just pop, gone, right? This movie does it very well. There are moments that begin as a jump scare, but it doesn't ebb. It literally just continues to resonate, and the fear, I always feel it in my back. And I appreciate any movie that does this. It's not terrifying, but I thought it did a really good job with that. That has a lot to do with the lighting, like you said. Also, it has a lot to do with Eli Bourne, who's the cinematographer, who also did a movie I'm really fond of. I've just watched a couple times in the last few months for the first time. Super Dark Times. He did the new Hellraiser. Really, there's a certain scene that involves a dream that becomes reality, and the way that it's filmed, the movement of the camera is really interesting. There's a couple moments like that. I don't remember the score at all, so I think you're probably right. Or they just really tried not to rely on music, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if you can create fear without the sonic cues, sometimes that's impressive, because music manipulates people. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but
well, that would make sense also because you're relying on using that sense of hearing what's in the dark that's around you, and
yes.
he does make proper utilization of that. So I'll give you that.
But yeah, I mean, it was very beat for beat in a very good way. But also, I think Savage is an auteur at heart, and I think we'll see that as he continues to make movies. And I think there's enough of him here where it kind of interrupts the beats a little bit, but not in a bad way. It gives it a little bit more personality. And I liked that. like the one example that's not a spoiler at all is the actress. Okay, so in Host, his first movie, the whole thing is these kids are going to have a Zoom seance, right? So one of the people on the screen in the Zoom meeting is a medium that the main character has hired to conduct this, right? So that actress, I Ceylon Baxter, I'm probably not saying that right, but she is also in this movie, but there's just a scene where Sophie Thatcher is watching a YouTube video about somebody talking about how to do a seance, and it's her. So I'm assuming it's the same character. I also noticed she's in Dashcam as well. So I'm wondering if that's like, I like when a creator has like a character that ends up being a through line through all their work, but isn't involved necessarily in the story. And that's what I mean as far as like, I feel like he's got his own kind of ideas, and I think he's an auteur. And first movie totally independent. Host did it, made a name for himself. Dashcam, I didn't see it, but we already know what it is, right? It's somebody that gave him money to do something more, but not a lot more. And then now he's made a fucking Stephen King adaptation for Warner Brothers, so he'll make another movie for sure. And I expect it to be good, like this was. And I reread. I had not read Stephen King's first collection of short stories, Night Shift, in a couple of years. I reread The Boogeyman, the story it's based on, and the setup for that, it's literally just this Mulchin character coming into the psychologist's office and telling him what happened. That's the whole story. And then there's a little thing at the very end that's like, oh, okay, scary. So this reminds me a lot of Black Phone, which was a movie that Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill took Stephen King's son Joe Hill's short story and said, here's a short story that can be a seed for a bigger story. Same exact thing here. And I thought it was done equally as well. I like Black Phone better just because I really liked that movie. But I thought this was the same kind of thing. And I got to say, I'd really have to make a list to know for sure. I think this might be in top 3 King adaptations because you got The Shining and Doctor Sleep. And while there are some other ones I'm sure that I like, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're great or even good. And this was pretty good, pretty damn good. So it might be in the top 3, probably definitely the top 5 King translations. So fucking Rob Savage, man. Can't wait to see what you do next.
Definitely. No, job well done. Welcome to the big leagues. You've you set out to prove something, and I think you did. So
yeah,
congratulations.
That's a Boogeyman. Ray, when you see it, let me know. I think you'll dig it. Anthony,
it's definitely something I was going to check out. I just haven't had a chance to.
No, I get it. And here's the good news. Like we saw it like kind of like advanced screenings. So it's not exactly advanced, but it opened Friday. So Thursday they have the 2 screenings usually later in the day. By next week, you'll probably have your pick because I think it's doing well. So I think it's just going to be a success. Anthony, you saw the other big release this week because it actually very last minute, as far as I was aware of it, and I didn't get it here, but you messaged the group. There was a one night only AMC thing in LA by you, and it was well, tell us about that.
Well, this one is called The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, directed by Bomani J. Story. And it stars Layla De Leon, and she plays the lead role as Vicaria. Denzel Whitaker also plays the one of the antagonists of the film, and Chad L. Coleman, who plays Vicaria's father, also known as Tyrese of The Walking Dead fame that people are
no
fond
shit.
of. Yeah, I didn't recognize him offhand because I remember him clean shaven from what I do remember of that show briefly. I didn't follow up with The Walking Dead. So this movie is a modern day story of Frankenstein set amid like the backdrop of like it looks like maybe Chicago, probably a rundown inner city area, kind of reminiscent to like a like a Candyman backdrop, something, dilapidated, whatnot. Lots of crime and whatnot. And this movie starts off, and it's no spoiler because you get it in the trailer. She loses a family member to gang violence and figures out, well, I can bring him back and get my brother back and fix this wrong that's been done. And I think she has it in her mind, or it's like, I can bring my it's her brother. I can bring my brother back. He can, right the wrongs of what's happened, and it, just goes horribly awry, much like Frankenstein, so he gets loose, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a story you haven't seen before, but it's done in a style you haven't seen before. Incredibly well acted. The young lady, Lea De Leon, fucking phenomenal. She emotes the hell out of this. She chews the scenery. She is fantastic. Her acting is fantastic in this movie. Everybody does a solid job. This thing got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and considering I heard of it literally last second, I'm like, where the hell did this come from? I looked at some of the director's credits, and I didn't recognize anything that they've done. So a few small. Well, I can't knock it, whether or not there's larger or smaller projects. I just don't know. But nothing I've really heard of before. And so this kind of came out of nowhere and really delivers a punch, a pretty solid gut punch. It is gory. It is at times terrifying. There's plenty of stuff that keeps you scared, because not only are you dealing with, the inner city violence and whatnot that's going on in this neighborhood, and just problems that are plaguing the neighborhood that she has to deal with to endure just everyday survival. But now you have this like superhuman monster she's created that she has zero control over. Everybody in this movie really gives their all. Nobody hams it up. Everybody pushes their skill limit to the limit, or skill level to the limit. And I really don't have anything bad to say about it. You will get a bite of vegetables, but the majority of this film is a terrifying experience. Nice. And I felt the suspense. I felt the edge of my seat moments. I had a great fucking time with this movie. And I was in that theater with 6 other people, and everybody in there had a great time. Nice. Fantastic job. This movie, I guess, goes wide on the 9th of June. And I'm really hoping a lot of people go out there and show this thing some support. Shudder's been blasting it all over the place, so I'm sure that Shudder's eventually going to get it after its, small theatrical run. But I do implore people to go out there and give this thing a go. I mean, for gorehounds, there's plenty of that in there. There's some nasty stuff that goes down in this, and again, it just as far as just overall message and portrayal of characters that we know and have seen throughout other iterations of the Frankenstein films, nothing's been done like this, and it is fantastic. So I do implore folks to go out and go watch this as soon as they can.
Wow, nice. I will say it is not available VOD yet. I thought I could buy it yesterday after you had talked about it. I was like, oh, I'll watch that. But it was like a prepay, so you pay like $15 now to own it digitally, and then you get access to it on the 22nd. So I'm like, well, that's dumb. So, I'll see it at either when you can actually rent it, or when it, whatever. But I'm definitely looking forward to it based on your review. And I knew nothing about it. I had seen the title. That was it. I just in passing.
Again, fantastic film. I really hope people go out and check this out. And much like I made a bit of a reference to so like what happened with Transfiguration and the vampire story. This is Frankenstein overlaid into a similar landscape, and it is executed very well.
Transfiguration's a great pull, because it's a fucking awesome movie. So that right, as soon as you mention that in the text, I'm like, I'm in. So very cool. Ray, what have you seen, my friend?
I guess I'll start with the most recent, which is last night I sat down and I watched Consecration.
Oh, how is it?
Uh,
Jenna
it's
Malone,
good.
right?
Yeah, Jenna Malone. I forget. Give me a minute. I'll look up the name of the other actor. Danny Houston. Danny Houston.
Oh, yeah.
If you've ever watched? Let's see.
I always think of him as Stryker
X-Men.
from X-Men. Yeah.
Yes,
30 days a
that's
night.
one of the things.
Oh, yeah.
That's
The
yes.
Constant
There you go.
Gardener.
30 Days a Night. Good cut. Good call. It's about Jenna Malone plays this woman who's a she's I think she's like an eye doctor, and she gets this call randomly one night from a policeman who tells her that her brother has died. And of course, she's very, distraught after hearing this. And um, before that happens, she's also sitting in her apartment, and like the power goes out, and she starts seeing a couple things. I don't want to give away what she sees, but she sees a couple things, and then she gets the call, and of course, she's just destroyed and decides to drive out, find out what happened. Her brother was a priest in this, and she comes to find out a very, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Radical sect of Catholicism, and that he was at this, he was like working, well, not working. He was stationed at this church in Scotland, and it was built from from a crumbled another crumbled what is it called, church that had been built on the Scottish coast. And one of the things about the church, was the original church, was that when like men came back, because it was an ancient church. It was something from like the Middle Ages. And when crusaders came back home from being on crusades, they would go into this church, which has this window that is one of those like cross windows that opens up, and like the window is literally at the edge of this cliff that the church is built on. And they would touch this stone, and then they would take one step back for every sin that they had committed. And if they stepped back far enough, they'd literally fall out the window to the cliffs below to their death. Or the conceit being God would catch them. So her brother, apparently they say, killed himself jumping out of that window. And she doesn't buy it. And so she starts to investigate, and this keeps getting like one run around or another, from like the police, from the nuns, from the priest, who seemingly seems to be on her side, but also seems to be having his own conversation with the nuns and telling them like what he's got planned for her. And um in the meantime, she keeps having like weird visions and things happening. And I don't want to give anything away for the ending, but I thought it was pretty good. Like, I was kind of surprised by where it went. Um, it's definitely well acted. It took me about like a good 20-30 minutes into it before I realized that it was Jenna Malone, who I'd seen in like
Donnie
Saved
Darko.
and like the Hunger Games. I was like, holy shit. Like, because she just looks so different. Like, and she acts so different, and she's got the accent down. And I was just, it totally threw me, because I'd seen her in other stuff, but I didn't realize it was her. And then I just was sitting there at one point, and I was like, is that the girl from Saved? And then I looked it up, and sure enough, I'm like, wow. Like, because most of the things I've seen her in, like Hunger Games, she's just very angry, and she's got this very short, like shaved head look in that movie.
Yeah.
And saved. She's kind of sarcastic teenager, and in this, she's like she's now an adult actress, and like I don't know, she just really buries herself in the role, and I was impressed. I was impressed. I think it's worth a watch. I was surprised because I thought it was going to be like I guess the genre that I've heard before is like Catholic horror,
Yeah,
where
which
it's
is
more about
tiresome
like
sometimes.
yeah, but it's not like like you find out that like the reason that like the priests and the nuns and everyone has their own ulterior motives is somewhat more out of fear and being reactionary, and I'll leave it at that. But
Okay.
it's worth a watch. It's definitely good. um I'd have to recommend that one compared to something else I saw recently on Shudder that I wouldn't recommend.
I've liked her since Donnie Darko, and I didn't feel like, other than Saved, I didn't know,
Like Donnie
like,
Darko,
yeah,
forgot about that too.
I think she kind of disappeared for a while, but she's had a resurgence, and I mark it when I noticed it. It may have started before that. That William Winding Refn show that I still need to finish, Too Old to Die Young, she's in it. And
Oh,
she carries herself like a fucking badass. And I feel like anything I've seen a trailer for or had any knowledge of that she's done in recent memory, there's an element of that. I could be off on that because I don't know all of what she's done, but yeah, she's a good actress, and I welcome her back. I mean, anybody in Donnie Darko immediately like is in my live forever column. So
Especially Swayze. Bring back Swayze.
bring back
Bring
Swayze.
Swayze back.
But good, okay, good, because that was Consecration was in theaters. I had it here, and I remember seeing a trailer, and I wasn't sure, and I didn't end up seeing it. So I'll definitely watch it now that it's on Shudder. So I'm glad that you saw that.
I didn't know it was in theaters at some point.
Yeah, I had it here. But you know what? Here was the problem. There was another movie like a month before called Pray for the Devil that looked very similar that I didn't think looked good.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like as soon as the trailers for that stopped, the trailers for this started. And so in my head, they were the same movie. So I think that ultimately played into me not going to see this movie.
I got what you mean.
Similar, but I don't know, Pray for the Devil just didn't look good to me.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. But that happens though. Like it's that thing of we've talked about it before of like, it just seems like one person gets an idea, another person gets an idea, and they both make something at the same time, and one of them will be superior and the other one will be somewhat inferior if they're not like actually on the same level. But the superior film sometimes suffers in the
Yeah.
audience because of the inferior film that gets a lot more advertising, and you're like, oh man. And then when you finally see it, you're like, wow, this movie's great. What happened?
Yeah.
And you realize that like it was out at the same time or being advertised at the same time as this other movie, and you're like, God, that movie was garbage. No wonder why I didn't see this, because I thought it was gonna be the same thing. Like it's kind of a bummer, but it happens. You're absolutely right.
It does happen. Well, I'm curious. So tell us.
The other thing I saw was Darklands, and I saw it based on the trailer. Like I saw it got added on Shutter, so I was like, let me check out the trailer, and I thought, wow, this looks pretty good. Like I like the concept of like a because it's very much like a Wicker Man kind of situation.
Julian Richards,
And
British film from the 90s, right? Like 96.
yeah,
It kind of looks
but
like
it
Wicker
seemed
Man, but with the guy from Prodigy running around going, Fire starter.
somewhat, yes. But that was the thing that I thought was interesting, because I thought what it was going to be was like these I forget the word I'm looking for, like this ancient cult of like not Celtic, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Like pagans.
Druids.
Druids, thank you, like a druidic cult, and they've adapted for modern times. So what they've done is like transported themselves and their cult inside of like an industrial factory. So like as much as they're like painting their bodies and things like that, and they have the fires, they also have like, they're doing their stuff inside of this like factory where they've got like a factory sounds and like fire that's caused by like gasoline and torches and I was like, that's kind of an interesting update. But the reason I didn't like it was because it had so much promise, and then it just ended up being like I said, it was just the Wicker Man. It was just it was one of those movies that like 5 minutes in, you're like, I bet this is where it's gonna go. And then I sat and at first I started to watch it and I got bored and I thought, ugh, I'll come back to this at some point. Like maybe I'm just not in the right mood. Like maybe I'm just not focusing on it enough or whatever. And so I stopped watching it and then I went back, I rewound some and went back to where I remembered. I was like, okay, I know where this is. I know what's happening right now. And then I started rewatching it the other night and I was like, yeah, I was right. This is disappointing. And then I just finished it and I was like, yeah, it went exactly where I thought it was gonna go. Like that's the thing that killed me is it just I don't know. It seemed like it had good promise and like the conceit and the like the way of handling that concept was interesting. But then it just ended up doing a story that we've seen before, especially when it comes to like guy looking into cult, wondering what's going on, and then oh well, he's got to be their next sacrifice, and it's because of this and what he doesn't know about himself. And I'm like, yeah, it's this, and it just I don't know. Like I was just disappointed. I more than anything, I think I was just disappointed because it just hit all the beats in all the right places, and it's like sometimes when you do that, it's just I don't know. Like why create something that has what feels like an original way of dealing with things and then
Mhm.
like make it so pedestrian, if I
It's
can say that.
I've seen it. I watched it a couple years ago. It was on Shutter, and I started rewatching it the other day, and I got interrupted. So I only watched the beginning. The beginning's great with the weird fire dance, and the fucking pig,
Yeah.
And I remember when I watched it previously, it was around the time that I watched Kill List, which I fucking love, and I think Kill List is the better version.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Kill List is a superior
by
version by
by a
far.
million. It's not the same thing exactly, but just as far as modern pagan, whatever, whatever you want to call that, druidic. But I did like Darklands. It reminds me a little bit of Wicker Man, a little bit of Hardware, just because it's British and of the 90s and kind of deals with like I don't know. I don't know what exactly reminds me of Hardware because they're obviously nothing alike, but maybe just its Britishness. But it's Julian Richards who went on to do last horror movie. Um I don't know. I'm still gonna rewatch it. I remember it feeling like I like the aesthetics of it, but I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily like same thing where I was I don't know. Darkland, great name. And just the opening shot of all the silhouettes of the industrial silos and fucking towers belching smoke in the the dusk of British. It's gorgeous, and it really just leads you to believe. And like I said, the opening scene with the pig, like it feels like it's really got something to say. And then I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I'm very quickly going to tell you guys about a game that I just finished yesterday, actually. So there's a game, I guess it came out on Steam a couple years ago. I don't really know what Steam is. I guess it's PC or some shit, whatever. I have a Nintendo Switch and I bought it a year ago and I play a few games on it, mostly Metroidvanias. Haven't played video games since the original Nintendo before that. But it's called No One Lives Under the Lighthouse. It's Torture Star Marvo Collective. Also has something to do with Puppet Combo, who I'm huge on. He's like kind of lo-fi retro style first person horror games that Nun Massacre I talked about on here before. It's fucking terrifying. It's unbelievable. What he does with sound, just the paranoia in that game is it's just glorious. No One Lives Under the Lighthouse, really weird. Just came out on Switch a couple weeks ago. First person, you basically get brought to an island with a lighthouse, and they're like, yeah, last keeper disappeared, so. And you just start off doing very perfunctory, sweep this up, make sure you put oil in this thing, and then put it in the light upstairs to keep it on. And so it seems like, I'm like, okay, is this just like really just kind of a blue collar, like, I don't know, it's weird. Then out of clear blue sky, there's a scene where all of a sudden, like, I'm walking down I guess it's an island. You go from the lighthouse to a cabin. It stops, and then all of a sudden you're looking at your character's back, and on either side of the screen you see what look like giant spider legs. You hear this unbelievable roar, and it starts coming at you. And the first time it happens, I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? And it just kills you. Then it resets, and it just does it again, and it does it again until you realize, like, oh, I can move. Where do I go? Okay. You get out of the situation, and I was like, what the fuck? Then it just gets weirder and fucking weirder. And the thing that's tripping me out is I have looked up and down online. Almost the only talk you see in any kind of forums is about the Steam version. I've seen a guy that posted all the endings. Nothing resembles what happened to me. Like, all of a sudden, like, when did the game become Hell Awaits by Slayer? Because you end up in this underground labyrinth where there's just like weird meat, bloody fucking things hanging from chains, and like squelching noises, and the monster. Then you get a better look at the monster. I'm not even sure it's the same monster, and it's chasing you. And then at some point I became the monster, and I was like, what the? And then you have to do I'm like, what am I doing? Everything looks weird. And I finally realized, like, I'm climbing the lighthouse stairs as the monster? Like I couldn't, it was such a fucking weird, total head trip. And then I, like, eventually got out of that, and just when the ending came up, it wasn't unbelievable, but just, I'm like, what, dude? Nothing online about any of this. And I'm just like, so I know there's multiple endings to the game, so I don't know if it's just because it's new and they really changed it for the new platform. It's available, I think, on all consoles now. And it was like $10, maybe. Absolutely outstanding game. Can't recommend it enough, especially if you like the first person stuff. Nerve-wracking, not quite as nerve-wracking as Nun Massacre, but, and just really fucking interesting, man. Really interesting. Just hats off to every Torture Star, Marvo Collective, and Puppet Combo. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I know that was one of my highlights of my last couple of weeks. Anthony.
Okay. I went and checked out this past weekend The Wrath of Becky, which is the sequel to Becky, starring Lulu Wilson. This is directed by Suzanne Coote and Matt Angel, not the same directors of the first Becky film, which is like a ultra-violent Home Alone style film. This one is, I guess, just as gory. They chose, of all people, Sean William Scott to be the big bad in this one, which was, a funny choice because obviously in the first one, for those who've seen it, it was the guy that played Paul Blart was the big bad in that one also. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to see them playing these really nasty characters. And basically it takes off where the first film's ends. She's on the run. Well, not on the run, but just kind of trying to evade social workers, so she's not being thrown into foster homes. Which is funny because that's how the film starts, and that's not giving anything away. It's her like going in, yeah, I can't wait to go to your church group tomorrow. It's gonna be fun. So it's hilarious because she's playing all the roles that she's playing the role that she's supposed to be for these like would-be foster parents, and then just hightails that out of there in the middle of the night and goes off and does whatever she's got to do. Fast forward, she's just kind of surviving and making her way around. Something bad happens. Somebody makes the mistake of invading her home, and it just kind of leads you down the spiral of what you already seen in the last Lulu film. And so now, mind you, it's meant to be meant to be outlandish.
Okay.
So much like the first film was, where it's like, wow, this little girl's killing off all these Nazis, and then in the second one, she's like 16 and she's offing all these yokels that are supposed to be like violent Proud Boy members and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's really funny to see Sean William Scott try to pull off menacing. It doesn't work. You don't scare me, motherfucker. Sorry, you're an American Pie. You don't scare me. Beyond that, it is gory. One of the guys that you'll recognize in there is Courtney Gaines, the dude that played Malachi, and then the weird nephew or whatever from fucking the Burbs. Yeah, he's one of the quote unquote henchmen in there, which is funny because he plays like a yokel that plays the fucking banjo and has all these songs about freedom and militias. So I mean, it's not without its laughs. The movie is entertaining. I'll give it that. It's pretty funny at times, but as far as gore goes, she does off some people in some pretty interesting ways, much like she did in the first one. So it's more of that. So it's still splattery. It's very camp, and in that regard, it's a fun action horror style film. It's okay. It was worth a watch. I don't know if I'm going to bring this one home, but I'm glad that I did see it, and I'm glad that it got a sequel. Not as good as the first one, in my opinion, but still worth a watch. And it's floating around out there. It's still in theaters, and then I think it comes to Blu-ray like next month or something like that. And that was The Wrath of Becky.
Well, I saw a Witchboard on when the Joe Bob presentation. I'd never seen that before, so I was like, oh, let me. I wanted to see it. It's it's entertaining. It's just I bet I saw the Joe Bob presentation because he brings up like what's nice about him is that he brings up the shortcomings of the storyline sometimes too, which I was happy because there's that whole thing in the middle of that film where like, okay, so he pissed off a ghost of a little boy, and now like that seems to be what's haunting them, and then that I forgot the name of like Morty or something like that, not Morty, of the malevolent ghost that it's actually that has been doing everything. But that whole subplot came out of fucking nowhere. It is so bizarre. Like, but that feels like a mark of like some horror where you get to like the middle of the second, you get to the end of the second act, or the end of or the beginning of the third act, and it reminds me of something I was told in a writing course, like a screenwriting course, introduce a new character in the third act. And I feel like I've only seen that done a few times where it actually works well. And I feel like some people really take it to heart and they're like, well, what if that's how it's my villain? Like, what? No, you can't have a movie that's been running for like 60 minutes or however long, and then they're like, okay, guess what? This is our villain. And like he's never been mentioned before on screen. Ha ha. There's my twist. And you're like, what? But the gore is fun. I love the way that I love the way the best friend dies at the beginning of the film. Like I was sitting there watching it and I was because there's that whole scene where he's at the construction site with the friend.
Oh
and
God.
then you see the axe overhead and you're like, so is it going to kill him with the axe? And then like all those fucking boards come down and crash on the friend. And I was like, oh, the axe was used to cut the supports that were holding up all that drywall. Brilliant. Brilliant. I was like, I thought you were going to just axe him, but that's cool. I enjoy that. That was clever.
It's such a weird
I
movie,
love the
man.
murder of like the psych. It is a weird movie. It is for sure a movie. I love the murder of the psychic where the thing starts chasing her through the apartment and then she jumps out the second story window.
Yes.
Well, somebody could survive from that, but then she lands head on the gate, and I was like, nice, nice, very good.
The psychic is Lucy from Twin Peaks. There's a second season subplot with her sister coming into town. She's Lucy from Twin Peaks' sister, Gwen.
Oh
Uh,
yes, yes, yes.
Totally. I was like, how do I know this chick? That movie, I remember that movie, the ads from when I was a kid in 1987. I would have been 11, and the ads freaked me out. I never saw it until about 2011. I bought it at Amoeba for like $9. I watched it once. I brought it to work and gave it to a friend of mine at work that I knew liked really campy stuff. I'm like, take this. It sucks. Did not care for it when I watched it that time. And then this time with Joe Bob, it was fine. I mean, I wouldn't watch it again, but with Joe Bob, it's like, okay, he's gonna talk about it, and he'll speak eloquently about this ball of shit. I mean, I shouldn't call it a ball of shit, but it's not a great movie. The funny thing is the director is the Kevin Tenney, or who went on to do Night of the Demon. So he makes Witchboard in '86. Night of the Demon, arguably, great fun movie. I think you can see what he learned making Witchboard applied to Night of the Demon. I don't know. But it was fun watching it with Joe Bob. I wouldn't recommend it in any other fashion.
I feel like it makes him sitting, like I said, like he not only is showing these films, he's also discussing their crazy shortcomings, and you're like, wow, what's going on with this movie? Like, oof. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's not a good film per se. It's
No,
just
it's
I
not.
mean, it's
It's
campy, it's entertaining,
I mean, I would suggest watch it with Joe Bob. That's the most you'll maximize the
Yeah.
entertainment, and it won't. I don't know. Just disappointing because as a kid, like I said, the ads freaked me out, and there's nothing scary about the movie at all. So I want to talk briefly about a movie that Anthony brought up, which I saw. It was a $3.99 or $2.99 rental on Prime. Totally fucking worth the money. 100%. It is a Shudder film. It'll be on Shudder probably. Oh, I think it's on the list they dropped for this month. I'm almost sure it's near the end of the month. This is Unwelcome, and it's the new movie by John Wright, the Irish writer director who did Grabbers, which we reviewed on this show a while ago. Man, other than Infinity Pool, I don't know that any movie I've seen this year, maybe I'm misremembering, other than this one, was one of those movies where I'm like, this is, every year I see movies and I'm like, that's going to be on my best of list, guaranteed. And this was immediately that for me. I was like, I loved it. Absolutely fantastic. Anthony, what do you think about Unwelcome?
It is incredibly taut in its suspenseful moments, which is weird because all I have to go on from John is the comedic shit that he did with Grabbers. So watching him pick these actors and actresses that play it straight and are in some really fucking dire some dire settings and storylines that they have going on, it's really fucking intense, and I'm like, wow, this is done really well. But then I looked at who he cast to do it too. Hannah
John Kamen. Hannah John Kamen. The one from the Black Mirror.
Yes, and I also remember her as Ghost from the second Ant-Man film.
Okay.
And then I remember her from Ready Player One also. She's kind of played like she's done well at playing a villainous role, which kind of carries over into her being able to do badass in this movie. And she does it exceptionally well. I mean, 100%. She's fucking full blast in this film. I loved her performance.
I did too. I thought she was great.
Douglas Booth, the husband character, didn't really have much to write home about. The
Nikki
antagonist,
Sixx. Nikki Sixx from The Dirt.
That's right.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. That's what I overlooked. His performance was so. I mean, he
I
did
thought it was
what he had to
good.
do, and
I thought it was good just simply because his character is such. You want to fucking smack him. Like, he's not like a terrible partner for her, but he's not.
No.
There's just things where I'm like, buddy, go punch that dude in the fucking face. What are you fucking doing? Stop.
Well,
no, I'm not talking about the beginning. The beginning where there's a home invasion scenario that takes them. It's reminiscent of Roanoke, American Horror Story, where it's like a couple in it's London, and something really fucked up happens, and then they end up going to the country. It's so they go from London to like fucking the wilds of Ireland, but so not that, but later there's just plenty of scenes later in the movie where I'm like, dude, have some fucking balls. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Even if you get your ass kicked, at least show them that you're willing to punch somebody in the mouth.
Well, that's the thing. I think, unfortunately, it's one of the cases where it's a beta male ended up with an alpha female who.
But it's frustrating, and I think
it just is what it is, and you sense that frustration because he has that frustration as well, and it comes across well on screen. So
that's what I mean by his performance.
Yeah,
I liked it. I thought he did a good job because of that.
Yeah, agreed. I do agree with you on that. Settings were great. The house that they moved to in the country was great. All the background characters. I like the community of characters that they had built. Who else? There obviously are going to be more antagonists in the film. They do a solid job. Some of them you'll recognize. And then this is just the human element. Then it takes a wild fucking turn, which isn't even fucking hidden from view at any point, because this is what they advertised the movie on.
Yeah. The poster, everything.
Dude, it takes a turn and adds in these little creatures called the blood caps, right? Is it blood caps?
Red caps or the far caps.
Once they kind of like show up and stuff starts happening, then that fun grabbers element kind of returns back, and then you throw in some gore with that on top of it. There's some nasty shit that goes down in here.
There is.
And you're smiling ear to ear watching this practical stuff that's happening, and you're also like just really impressed with how he's able to somehow mash this stuff into a film that, I mean, it's almost a completely separate movie at one point. Dude, the juxtaposition between, the first and second act and the third, it's still kind of boggling to me, but it works so fucking well, man.
It does.
I love this movie.
It's they lay the groundwork throughout because it talked about, but and it's coming, because like you said, it's how they advertise it, but the human threats are so well done. And so then you wonder, like, how is this other element going to mix in? And it just does so well. Like, and you're right, like the great practical effects, and then like the Far Darrig are, and so it's like the fairies of Irish culture. They're kind of like Leprechaun, but not really. But the fairy myth is huge, because there's the part where the old fairy myths about like the changeling. Well, they'll take your baby and leave you a changeling, or like. Just there's elements of that, and man, I just really thought everything about it worked, and like you said, it almost at one point is like, this isn't gonna work, but it defies all logic, and it works so fucking well. And I'm assuming it's because John Wright was born in Belfast, I believe, and it's probably something that he was around that folklore. So he soaked it in. It just came out really well, and man, I don't know, really, really good performances were all great. The fucking the family, that they hire to fix their roof, that end up being antagonists, really great casting, great, just oh man, very good.
No,
movie.
it's done exceptionally well. I'm really glad I took a chance on this one, and it definitely paid off. I'm glad you enjoyed it more so because I was kind of skeptical on whether or not you were gonna be into it or
What
not.
is
But
what
it
is it
was
on?
fucking outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, there's elements of like, you
Oh,
can rent it
okay.
on Prime. It's going to be on Shutter by the end of the month, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's elements of like stuff that you'll get in Neil Gaiman or like Terry Pratchett books. There's remind me a little bit of this John Crowley book, Little Big, the kind of fairy fae folklore stuff. The movie I was trying to think that Unwelcome reminded me a bit of is 2015's The Hallow. Has a similar setup, but I thought Unwelcome was a better movie. But so if you saw The
I've
Hallow,
never seen that. I've
it was
never
on
seen that.
Netflix
Is it
for fucking
okay?
ever. So
Yeah.
I remember Kirsten and I watched it when we first started dating. She doesn't remember it. I don't remember a lot about it, but I believe there is overlap. So I felt like it was similar to that. So people might know that. Oh man, yeah, I know. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So John
Yeah,
Wright,
I got
good
I
job.
got the Blu-ray that comes with a special effects reel too that shows them sculpting the masks for all of them. They're all different. No one of them is the same. So they all have different head sculpts,
So even
different wardrobe.
they are practical.
They're practical. Yeah.
See, that was the one thing I wasn't sure if the Ferdinand was actually practical or if it was just really fucking good CG. I couldn't tell.
It is combo. There is some combo in there.
Okay.
As far as there's some combo, but I mean they showed how they made sculpts for, I guess they'd made two sets of them. They'd done full size ones for the actors that had to do it. And of course, through the magic of filmmaking, you shrink it down. And then when they did have to do CG, they also had sculpts for smaller versions of them. But majority of the stuff was all done practical. And you can see that shine through when you do get a chance to like really take a moment to like look at each one if you get a chance to. I mean, obviously you're engaged in the film. It's one thing you do want to continue to do. But if you do have the opportunity to, there's a lot of detail that go into all these little, different faces and stuff like that. Because like I said, no two are alike. They're all different. They've all got all these, weird, growths coming out of their face
Yeah.
and just different, really creepy looking little fuckers. But one is bearded, which is hilarious. In my opinion. And
Yeah.
they're funny. They have their own language. It is English actually. It's like and I won't spoil like kind of where that derives from. You'll see when you watch the film that it's fucking fantastic. A great movie, a really fun, which is weird because it does have a bit of a runtime on it. It's almost 2 hours in length, but I mean, it like I
Doesn't
said, that
feel it.
you don't feel it at all, and you're engaged in the story. And by the time the shit hits the fan, you're so in for the fucking mayhem. It's a blast, and I
Yeah.
think everybody's gonna love that come the end of the month when they do get around to checking it out on Shutter because it's gonna be a blast.
I agree. Ray.
Did I talk about Jack Be Nimble before?
No, I don't even know what
Oh,
that is.
okay.
No,
It's
I don't
on
think so.
Shutter. It's a Australian film. I saw it a while back when it first hit Shutter. It's pretty good. It's about a brother and sister who have like a psychic connection, and their parents die, and they get put into a home for adoption, and they both get adopted. But the sister ends up with this family, this couple, very nice, just suburban people, and they want a child, and they're just trying, and then they want to just take care of someone, and basically be good adoptive parents. And then the brother, Jack, poor guy, gets adopted to the Australian equivalent of hillbillies that have basically adopted him, and they already have 4 daughters, their own daughters that they've had by birth, but that they basically adopted him so that they can collect the money from the state for adopting him. and then they just treat him like garbage. Like they're total pricks. And they're abusive, and like the thing is that it's not only them that are like fucking with him, the parents, it's also the 4 sisters that just enjoy messing with him too. And so you get this established, and this is all their children. And you think of this established pattern of like this is what he has to go through and endure from these people. Um, and there's a couple times where like he gets hurt as a child, and then later as like a teenager, and um, she she gets like basically a like almost like a sonnet,
Like
like a ping from
psychic
him. Like
connection of
she
twins, right?
feels that something, yeah, a psychic connection, that something's going wrong, like he's in pain. And she never quite give up on trying to find her brother, but at the same time, tries to move on, hope that everything's good with him. Um, and then they get to both being teenagers. Um, he's in school and he builds this device and he takes it home to his step parents or his adoptive parents, and they're like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Well, that's the thing I invented. Try it, see what it does." And it kills the adoptive parents, which is his objective. Um, and then he but the sisters survive. But so he runs away after that, and he then goes about trying to find his sister. Meanwhile, his sister, um, after he's like attacked by a person, has that strong psychic connection come up, and she starts to then look for him too. Um, and at one point they reconnect, and she's trying to be there for him and is understand that he has not had the good life that she had, and Mm, at the same time, like he kind of has violence like bubbling under the surface at all times because of what he's
Hmm.
been through. Like he's not
Hmm.
it's how he reacts to things. It's just the way where he's been programmed at this point. Um, and he kind of has trouble because at one point she's oh, that's right. I'm sorry. She has an accident. Like these girls bully her, and she has an accident. And after the accident, her psychic powers really start to get strong, and she's kind of lost and feels like she's going crazy and can't figure out what's happening because she can hear other people's thoughts. And then she meets this man an older man, who helps her hone her abilities. But there also is kind of a
Is he bald and sits in a wheelchair?
no. Well, he is bald slightly, but he doesn't sit in a wheelchair.
I've seen this movie. It's the Larry Flint movie, right? Man
Oh,
he wears a diaper.
I'll tell you what, I'll show you how you can hone your psychic abilities, but only after you wipe my ass. But like he and the brother have issues, and I think one of the things it is it's kind of an alpha situation with him and the brother, but there is also the thing of like, I think the brother is just somewhat looking out for her too, because it is one of the things that bothers you as you're watching the film, like because she seems to be in her like early 20s, and this guy is clearly like he's probably like the age we are now. But just imagine how problematic it would be for you to show up and like, or for me, and like, imagine you came out here and you were like visiting, and I'm like, hey everybody, I met this girl. Here's my new girlfriend, and then I show up and like she's younger than everyone we know. She's like 22. You'd all be like, dude, are you really? I'd have to spend time convincing you like, oh no, she's really mature and she likes hanging out and like we get along real well. Like you'd probably be like, are you Mm, uh, are you taking
I
advantage of the
wouldn't judge, Ray.
situation? Like that's like what's going on, man? But I mean, that's kind of one of the things that kind of bothers you as a viewer after watching the film is that you're like, he's quite a bit older than her. Um, but it's good. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and oh, I'm sorry. And then it kind of like building towards the third act is that the sisters have not given up. They want to find Jack
Yeah,
and
I had a
exact
feeling.
their revenge, their bloody revenge. Um, it's good. It's good in a weird, like, I don't know what I could compare it to.
No, you don't have to compare it to anything.
It's
I mean, it sounds like a pretty
it's a pretty
unique
unique film. It's pretty entertaining. What
1993.
I was surprised by, yeah, and it just recently got on Shutter. I guess it was like out of print, and it was one of those like cult movies that people were like, is there any copy of this out there? Where can I get where can I get a VHS? Where can I get a digital copy?" And like, it wasn't. I think it's one of the first times it's on streaming. Oh, the actor who plays Jack is Alexis Arquette. Um, who, if you don't know, was one of the Arquette siblings who passed away recently, not too long ago. At the time, he was a man when he started this film. He died a woman. But he's famously been in like some
Pulp Fiction,
oh yeah, he
Spun.
was in Pulp Fiction. I was gonna say that more people would probably know him from like the some Adam Sandler movies. He was the
Oh, let's not talk about it.
okay, not a problem. But yeah, he's great. He does a great job. Like I was sitting there watching it, and I didn't realize until later on. I was like, oh shit, that's Alexis Arquette. Wow. But yeah, he does a good job. It's an entertaining film. Definitely worth the time.
Nice. Okay, I'll definitely watch it. Let me tell you guys about or no, Anthony. I think it's you. Go ahead. I think I brought up Unwelcome. Go ahead, hit it.
I was
What do you
ready
got?
to be I was ready to be fucking
Regaled with
beguiled
stories.
by with stories of the
Oh, the
Bible, but
Bible.
okay, I guess I'll go. Um, I have two more. You and I have done one. We'll tag team one of them. I'm gonna talk about the Black Demon
Okay,
real quick.
shark movie, right?
The Black Shark movie, Killer Shark, 2023. Director,
Adrian Grunberg.
which I didn't write down, but I wrote down the other movies that he directed, which was Rambo: The Last Blood and Get the Gringo, which is like one of my fucking favorites. I love that fucking movie. Anyway, this movie takes place in good old Mexico, and it stars Josh Lucas, and Josh Lucas was a name from American Psycho, Session 9.
Oh
Also
yeah.
stars Fernanda. Ooh, I'm gonna butcher her name. You're Yep, not gonna say that because I don't want to be an asshole. But she plays Inez, his wife in the film, and she's from Narcos Mexico. And Julio Cesar Cedillo, who plays Chato, also from Narcos Mexico. Basically, short and skinny of this is a crumbling oil rig is out there in the off the Gulf of Mexico, and what was his name? Lucas's character has to go out there. He brings his family. He needs to go out to the rig and do an inspection. And upon doing so, he gets to the town. Something's clearly wrong. All the locals have fled. Like all the wildlife is gone. I mean, infrastructure's crumbling. Everything's falling apart. And he's like, "This place used to be so lush and full of life when I came here. What happened in the 10 years since we came?" Um, Makes his way out to the rig. Um, and it's none of this is spoiler. All this is in the trailer.
Yeah, yeah.
And long story short, basically the townsfolk have prayed to an Aztec god of theirs to exact revenge on the people that brought this thing here, that killed
Oh.
killed the environment off and ruined the town basically. And what that god did was basically bring back a megalodon as like an agent of revenge. So it's got a supernatural element to it. Um, all this stuff sounds cool on screen. You know, um, the film's got a lot of heart. There's a lot of interesting things that I haven't seen in these stories before, or in giant killer shark movies before. I like that it's got this mythos behind it that I've never heard before, which I thought was really interesting. Um, I just, it's It's done extremely well. It's acted some of the acting, and actually, I believe the majority of the bad acting in this is done by Josh Lucas. I think he's just out of his element in this film, which is weird because apparently he did stuff like Ferrari versus whatever, and he's a name. People know him, but I think he got this role and just phoned it in,
Okay.
which is unfortunate because, like I said, this film, which is kind of small, that has a lot of heart to it. I feel that he didn't like respect the role enough, which is
Okay.
unfortunate. Creature feature designs, they're okay. They're not horrible. A lot of it is CG. Well, actually, majority of it is CG. In fact, if anything has been um, built practical, it would be unbeknownst to me. But it does have some interesting stuff in there. There is like oil spill in the water, so you can't see the ocean. So again, praise back on my fears where it's dark ass water that I can't
Yeah.
see the fucking bottom of, and there's something horrible in there floating around that wants to eat you. Fucks me up every time. So
Yeah.
it may not be for everybody. This thing just came out on VOD this past Wednesday, I believe. So that's available for rental right now. I think Blu-ray is going to be slated for later next month. Not for everybody, but for a small film with a lot of heart about a big killer shark that likes to eat people, and there's family drama and dynamic in there that's done fairly well. I think it might be up your alley. It's not 100 for me, but I did enjoy it, and I do think it does deserve a mention at least because it was a pretty good movie. It was
Okay.
decent. It was
Okay.
decent. Yeah, that was the Black Demon 2023.
It sounds cool that they tied it in like where it's actually a demon, right? But or demon adjacent. But shark movies, I don't know. To me, it's just there's Jaws. That's it. I mean, Open
So there,
Water isn't really a
yeah.
shark movie. That's
So
terrifying.
there's a comic line that came out alongside this too that I haven't seen that Scout put out, and it's the Tales of the Black Demon, and it's just different stories about different times this god has resurrected this shark to enact revenge throughout history. So it's different stories.
Huh.
So I think they did a one shot, and then I think it's got a 3-issue run right now too. So there should be four issues floating around out there. I've yet to give it a shot. I may do that soon, assuming I can track them down. But yeah, there is a comic line released alongside this as well. Yeah, not a lot of press behind this. I mean, this thing was one of those things I heard about last second. Like again, which is sad. There's not a lot of places you're going to see this thing advertised. However, and then at the same time, it's like now we get a Mega 2 trailer. That thing is fucking everywhere. But I mean, that's big budget for you. That's big.
Yeah, it's big budget.
That's big budget, big Hollywood, big everything.
Would you rather watch Meg or the Black Demon?
Ooh. Having just watched Meg recently, I actually would say that I enjoyed the Black Demon a little more, only because it's not the forefront of the film. The Black Demon is just kind of like, so here we are in this scenario. We have all these different, we have all these different, like interfamilial dynamics that are going wrong that we have to deal with and work on through drama and whatnot, and the shark is just kind of a thing that's just happening. It's just out there, and so the majority of that story is there, so it gives you something else to focus on, opposed to where you're watching the Meg where it's just like, okay, hurry up, shut up, I want to see the shark. You know what I mean? So I actually get to see some acting and some more storyline, opposed to, well, we opened up a hole and now this thing came out. Like there's something more to it that I'm hoping gets explained a bit more in the comics. So yeah, I think I would like to see the Black Demon more than the Meg. However, I am going to go support Meg too, just because I'm an idiot and I like giant sharks. So
No, dude, you're not an idiot. That's fine. I was just curious. I feel like not really having a horse in the race, I would probably opt if you were like, if I came over and you're like, we're gonna watch one of them, Meg or, and I saw Meg in the theater. I remember nothing about it except that it's exactly what I think that it is. but I think I'd rather go with Black Demon just because, yeah, it's less spectacle, maybe.
Agreed. It is. That's true.
I'll go with so I read a book. I've been reading a lot. I blew through the new Chuck Palahniuk or newest, latest, whatever, and then was going to restart Stephen Graham Jones' My Heart is a Chainsaw because I got the sequel, Don't Fear the Reaper. And I just randomly picked up this book that our friend Jesus had sent me a couple years ago called Tastes Like Candy by Ivy Tholen. Know nothing about this book whatsoever. Totally independent author. It's fucking outstanding. I read it in 3 days. It is a slasher, first person. Basic gist is this girl and her friends are all, this girl Violet and her friends are all incoming seniors at this high school in a small town in Texas. And every year, the incoming seniors are sent an invitation by the outgoing seniors from the year before for this scavenger hunt. Usually it takes place at school. This year it's going to take place, the town has this carnival. And it's going to take place at the carnival in off hours. It's not open. And so there's this whole thing. Well, usually it's okay because it's at the school, but this is like, we have to break in or whatever. They're like, it's, it's fine. They're just making it something, more special or whatever. And they break in, they eat I mean, dude, I was chilled just seeing how many 10 milligram edibles some of these girls ate. I was like, dude, wow, that's terrifying. I think there's 6 or 7 of them they break in, and it's basically like one of them has to get a ball from the bottom of the dunk tank. One of them has to get, whatever. It's all shit like that. And somebody starts killing them. It is first of all, it's fucking brutal. Ivy Tholen, first of all, she is a fantastic writer. Going from Palahniuk to Stephen Graham Jones, there's going to be no like, oh, here was this dip in quality because it was no, she is fantastic writer. I'm going to check out some more of her stuff. But also, like, I just really like the characters, and they spent a lot of time building the character of Violet and her friends beforehand. And then when all hell breaks loose, holy shit. I'll just say, like, the first death is one of the girls at the test your strength where, you pick up the mallet and boom, and then the thing goes up. And if you hit the top, then you get a prize. She gets her fucking head caved in like a watermelon on that. That's just the first death. They're all really interesting. And one in particular, I was like, dude, that is revolting. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. Tastes Like Candy. You can get it on Amazon. Totally independent author, worth your money. Ivy Tholen. Wow. Really impressed. Fantastic writing skills. So there you go. Ray.
I don't think I have anything else, unfortunately.
That's okay. So Anthony, let's blow through our last one and then we'll call it a day.
But it said it tastes like candy is the name of that book?
Tastes Like Candy.
Cool.
Yeah, Jesus did me a fucking solid. Jesus, if you're listening, thank you. Thank you a lot. It was fantastic.
This next film, 2022's. I don't know how to say that now. It's Huesersa.
Okay, there you go.
See, now I fucked up again. Yep. Nope. Anyway, The Bone Woman.
The Bone Woman. Let's leave it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, The Bone Woman, directed by Michelle Garza Cervera, starring Natalia Solian as Valeria. That's Valerie in English. Myra Batalla as Octavia, and Alfonso Dosal as Raul, and he plays the husband in this film. Shawn, take it away. What do you think of The Bone Woman?
This is the first feature, and I liked it. I had some issues with it. Nothing huge. I would definitely recommend it. There's some creepy shit. I felt like one of my issues was not quite enough, but just the opening where they're going to this giant gold Virgin Mary statue is just that. It's not meant to be creepy per se. It's not part of the horror of the movie, but it is the creepiest thing. when she first sees the statue kind of looking over the trees as they're going up this huge thing of stairs, and then when you get this shot that like comes away and shows you the scope of this fucking thing. Religion on that level always creeps me out. I mean, it's a good story. I thought all the acting was good. I don't know. I guess I condone them for not putting too fine a point on anything, but I kind of wanted a little bit of I didn't even need an explanation. I just needed something more, and I just didn't. I don't know, but overall, I would recommend it. It's a good watch. It's a very, very slow burn. So if you're in the mood for Night of the Demons, do not fucking put this on. But I don't know. What'd you think?
I thought it was a little too on the nose. And I thought for the metaphors that they were trying to stress in the film, like it was just too easy to pick, like too easy to pick apart. And I don't know who this audience. I don't know who the audience for this film was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it's a nature versus nurture story. I was kind of hoping for something a little more beyond what I could figure out right off the bat, and that was a little bit bothersome to me. And then again, like you said, it is a slow burn. What fucking movie isn't these days? And unfortunately for me, it just kind of led up to this like really no payoff, boring film. Not to say it's not worth, it doesn't have some merit. The acting's pretty good in it, and it has characters in it that are relatable. But as far as what agenda they're trying to push, that is, be it supernatural or what have you, it just doesn't. It's just not executed well, and that may be due to budgetary constraints or whatnot. And I don't think this director's done very much. Again, the actors and actresses, they do, believable performances, viable performances, and I didn't hate anybody in it. But as far as like the overall point, like I got it, but I was just hoping for a little something extra that would have been given me that wow, that would have pushed me into loving this film. But it was just okay, unfortunately. So, do I recommend it? No, actually, I don't recommend it. Yeah, I don't recommend it. I think it's I think the payoff isn't what you're going to be what you're looking for. You're not going to get, and it's going to take too long to get to that point before you realized, fuck, I sat through this. So unfortunately, it doesn't really have my my go. But cool. Not a horrible movie, just not for me.
Other thing I was going to say is just a little aside. For years I've tried to watch David Cronenberg's Scanners, and I don't know what it is. I love Cronenberg. I've never been able. I think it was because I didn't see it till later in life, and like, I don't know. I always knew one day this movie will open for me and I'll get it. And that happened while I was sick. I watched it and I fucking loved it. And I felt like I had loved it my whole life. It was a weird, I think it's literally like, if your favorite movie or your favorite band, if you're not in the mood for that, it's not going to be your favorite at that moment. Right. And I think there was just something about Scanners. I always thought Mind's Eye is a much better film, which I still think, but obviously it stands on the shoulders of Scanners. So, to some degree, it's good. And it's a bigger scope than I thought that it was going to have, which I appreciated quite a bit. So, I enjoyed it, and I just wanted, because I know I've mentioned periodically that's come up on here, and I've been like, never been able to get into that movie. And I just always thought one day I think it'll happen, and it happened. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So
I'll have to give that a rewatch. I haven't seen it in years, and
so that's it. So okay, well, we'll be back soon with another episode now that Yellow Jackets is over. And then we'll definitely be doing a cruising Elements of Horror. So you guys will be invited to that.
Yeah, keep me updated.
I'll let you know.
Definitely down to.
That's actually going to be a video cast where we'll all be leather clad. So definitely tune into that. So
Chris go to the elbow. Yeah, that's my mom.
Oh, fuck.
Yep. Hey, I was going to say, watch me lube up my arm. so hard to wipe her own butt when it's deader than a dog in a yard.
I'm totally gonna cut what you just said out and put it after the end theme, so it's totally out of context.
That's fine with me. That's fine with me.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20 soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Shawn C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus.